In this lesson, we'll learn how to add animation to our InDesign project using a motion preset. Okay, so we just wrapped up learning about multi-state objects, and now we're ready to begin exploring animation. So let's jump over here to page 3 in our layout, and we're going to take a look at these gallery thumbnail images here. We're going to start off with a very simple animation. So what I'd like to do is for each one of these buttons that we've created to link to our multi-state object, I would like to be able to roll over them with my mouse and have them grow just a little bit. And then when I roll off of them, have them shrink back down to their original size. Now we're going to do that by first selecting the thumbnail here in the corner. We're going to jump over to the animation panel. Now the animation panel is here. It looks like 3 dots connected by a path. You'll notice that there are a lot of settings here. So notice first that the name has already been populated for us. This is actually the button name. If we change it here, it will change the button name, and I don't really want to do that. So if we had selected an object that was not a button, maybe this rectangle here, notice that it just gives us the name rectangle, and we could change it and give it a relative name to this animation. So let's go ahead and select our thumbnail again, and let's take a look at some presets here. Now we can access those by hitting this little down arrow, and you'll notice that there are quite a few of them here. Now if you ever used Flash Professional, some of these probably look familiar to you. Now there's no possible way we're going to be able to touch on each and every one of these in this course, so I'm going to leave it up to you to experiment with some of these in between lessons and even after this course is over, and decide if you like them or if you would never touch that one again. So let's go ahead and choose one. We'll choose the Fade In preset here. And once I do, you can see a little preview up here at the top of the animation panel. This is the old InDesign butterfly, and you can see that it's previewing what that animation preset looks like for us. So I'm going to go ahead and select the Grow preset here. Now, if I can give you one bit of advice when it comes to applying animation to your InDesign projects, it's to go sparingly. Just be mindful that your main goal is to communicate information to your reader. And the last thing you want to do is bog them down with a lot of unnecessary movement and really sharp animations. So there's something to be said for subtlety when it comes to incorporating animation into your project. With that said, let's go ahead and jump over here and look at the events for this preset. Now, notice that by default we're set to on-page load. This is the trigger, or the event that is going to set this animation off. I don't want it to go off on page load, so let's drop this arrow down and look at some other options. Now, notice here there's an on-page click. That'll make it so that if they click anywhere on the page, it'll actually set the animation off. There's on-click self and on-rollover self here. Now, the self next to these actually means that it's referring to just the object we have selected right now. So if I choose on click self, when that object is clicked, then the animation will set off. I want the on rollover self option here. So when we roll over that object, the animation will play. Now, when I selected that, notice what happened. It actually added an additional event. We can use more than one event as a trigger for an animation. I don't want the on-page load, so I'll need to manually turn that off here. But look at this option here that was made available when I chose on rollover self. We have the option to reverse the animation when we roll off of the button. So I'm going to check that here because I like that idea. And let's talk about this option over here. This is called the Create Button Trigger option. So if I click this, notice my cursor changes to a crosshair. Now, as it is right now, we are using the selected button to trigger the animation, but if we wanted the trigger to be another object here, whether it's a button or not, we could actually mouse over it with this crosshair and click on it. And if it's not a button, InDesign is going to convert it into a button and apply the necessary event and action to play this animation. I believe the default is a on-release event. So if it is already a button, like some of these here, it's going to go ahead and add the event and action to play the animation to those. Now I don't want to do that, so let's hit escape here. And I'm going to jump down here and talk a little bit about this information here. The duration is how long that the animation takes to play. When you think about this rollover action that we're trying to create an animation for, 1 second is kind of a long time. So I'm going to bump that down to about half a second here. Now for the play number here, or play option, this is how many times the animation will play. I just want it to play one time, but we could increase that here, and we can also choose to loop our animation. Now, when it comes to speed, you can see the default is from the preset, but we can come down here and either apply no speed to it, or we can choose some easing options. We can ease in, ease out, or ease in and out. Now, if you've never heard the term ease before, you can simply replace that with slower. So easing in means we're slower coming in to the animation. Easing out means we're slower going out of the animation. And, obviously in and out would be a little slower at the beginning and then a little slower at the end, but normal speed in the center. So let's go ahead and choose ease in here. And let's jump down here to the properties. Now, if you don't see this, you'll want to twirl this little arrow next to properties by clicking on it. And you can see the first option here is animate. Now we're going to come back to these options under animate here in just a moment when we start looking at animating on a path. But just know that from current appearance means that the current appearance and location of this object are going to be used as the starting point for the animation. Now we have some animate to options down here, and this is going to basically control where the animation ends up. Now we have a rotate option. We can set a rotation angle. Notice that's currently 0, but under scale down here, both the width and height are set to 200%. Now those numbers right there are coming from this grow preset up here. So 200% is an awful lot. I don't think we need to grow this object that much. I'm going to input 125% here, and I'll just hit tab because those two numbers are linked together with this button here. So we have here a little reference grid, and notice, just know that this is controlling the origin for which all these transformations are going to occur. So right now it's the center of the object, which is fine with me. Now for opacity here, this is going to give us some fading options. We can choose to either fade in on our animation or fade out. And for visibility, we could choose to hide the object until it's animated or to hide it after animating. Now I don't want any of those to apply here, so I'm pretty good. What I do want to do is click on this button to actually preview our animation in the preview panel. So InDesign's going to think about this for just a moment and then load up a preview, and we'll just mouse over and you can kind of see how that's working here. Mousing over it is making it grow. Rolling off of it is making it shrink back down. That actually feels pretty nice to me, feels pretty natural. Let's go over and think about how we can apply all these same settings here to these other buttons that are triggering our multi-state object. Well, what we can do is actually create our own custom motion preset. So notice that it says custom right next to grow at this point. If I come up here to the panel flyout menu and choose save, we're going to be prompted to save a preset. So let's just call this thumbnail grow. And I'll hit OK on that. And notice that new name is substituted here to thumbnail grow. Now it does look like it bumped my speed back over to preset, so let's choose ease in again. I did like that ease in effect. And let's come over here and look at how we can manage our presets. So if we come over here to the animation panels menu again, we can choose manage presets. And here you can see that thumbnail grow preset that I just created. If we wanted to delete it, we could delete it here. We could duplicate it. And we also have options to load custom presets or export or save our presets out. So let's go ahead and hit done on this. I'm going to come over here and click on my first thumbnail that we want to apply this to. And I'll just drop this down and choose that thumbnail grow option. Now we do need to change the event. Remember, we don't want it on page load. We want this on rollover self. And we want to reverse it. And we'll set that ease in back to where we had it. So that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and apply that same motion preset to the rest of these thumbnails. I'm going to hold Shift and select the other 5 objects here. We'll apply our thumbnail grow preset, change our event to on rollover, reverse on roll off, and ease in. Alright, great. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and preview the animation again in the preview panel just to make sure everything got applied. So we'll wait for InDesign to generate that preview, and here we go. So we mouse over some of these, and it looks like our animation is looking pretty good at this point. Testing each one of these that I've applied it to. Yep, I am quite satisfied with that grow animation that we've created here. Alright, great. So let me go ahead and hide our preview panel at this point. And we've got our first set of simple animations created. So what I would like to do in the next lesson is continue learning about the animation panel and introduce you to animating along a path. We're going to animate our document navigation bar down here.